Shabbat Shalom, everyone. To our worshipers who are joining us online as well, we wish you a Shabbat Shalom. Delighted to have you all here with us um, on a Shabbat that we hope and pray will bring us the gift of restoration, healing, also the opportunity to bear witness, to tell the story, the continuing, emerging story of our people, to celebrate with one another, to grieve with one another, to reach for determination and inspiration with one another as well. It's a long agenda for one little Shabbat evening, but I'm so grateful that all of you are here with us to take that journey together. I want us to begin simply by acknowledging the great gift of our being here with one another, the way the psalmist did it in the old days. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. How good, Judith approves of this. This is good. How good, how pleasant it is for us to be together. And I want to point out with special gratitude to all of you. I know that we are living through a moment where it's that pause that you take when you think about, do I want to go out into a large gathering, especially one that I know will be filled with Jews at a place that is associated with being Jewish. Takes that little deep breath, and then the decision, the determination to say, I will not be terrorized. That's you. And so I'm grateful to each and every one of you filling this sanctuary tonight with love and with hope for the future. And so with all that said, let us express our gratitude for being here with one another. It's because you showed up that everybody else got to experience you. And because enough people made that choice, this room feels healing, feels holy. So, you did that. How good, how pleasant it is for us to create community with one another at the times when it is needed most. The words can be found at the top of page 10 in the prayer book. Shabbat achim gam yachad, hine ma tov u'manayim. Shabbat achim gam yachad. As most of you know, ever since the pandemic, we have excised the Shabbat table blessings out of Friday night services. Not everyone thinks that's a great idea. There are some who, it's a Jewish community, so you please almost half of the people some of the time. So that's the way that tends to work. It's a real success if I get to almost half. So I consider that a phenomenal Q rating when that happens. In any case, I was just online with the folks who join us each week to make the Shabbat table blessings online. But tonight we decided, as you all know, to bring the lighting of Shabbat light back into this sanctuary for at least this Friday night as a means of connecting our hearts with those so far away in Gaza, in places that we don't know, experiencing the greatest imaginable fear. And if we could connect our hearts with theirs, if there were some way for us to ensure that they knew that they were in our thoughts and in our prayers, and of course for Jewish people, for so many people beyond the Jewish community all over the world, would that be a source of encouragement, a source of hope? We would hope and pray. No way for us to know, but the one thing we can be certain of is that for us, looking to restore some amount of light within, we are going to tonight create light without. And I want to share some special words of thanks, especially with Lee Brockman and Shauna Epstein. There's Lee. Where's Shauna? There she is, over there. A little special extra love word as well to Nancy Marks, who pitched it as well and helping to get everything all set to go here tonight. A lot of you brought your candlesticks. A lot of you, some of you brought candles. We brought a lot of candles. The idea was that if you did not come tonight with candles or candlesticks, that you shouldn't feel as though you're excluded from this ritual moment. So we just brought extra candles. All those, see these guys right here? They look like this. We need them to get to 240. So if you look around this room, the goal is to kindle light for all of those who are experiencing captivity right now, and our hearts are bound with them through these little lights. And so I want to invite every single member of the community forward in just a few moments. Before we do that, I'm going to share with you just one brief little video. Would that we could tell all of the stories of all of these lives on this Shabbat night. But I do want to share with you one brief telling of a story, family affected by this crisis, because 10 members of their family are being held captive in Gaza. We're going to hear that story right now.
My name is Shaked Aran. 10 of our family members are held hostage by the Hamas. Our father, Avshalom Aran, our mother, Shoshana Aran, our sister, Adi Shoham, and her husband, and their 2 children, our aunt and her daughter. Also, we lost contact with our aunt and uncle that live nearby our parents. Nave, our sister's son, he's 8 years old. He's an amazing child. He has such an open heart. He's just this sunny, bright boy that thinks the world is full of good. We're praying that in some sort of way he will manage to keep this point of view that there is good in the world.
Custom in the Jewish tradition is to kindle Shabbat light before making the bracha, before reciting the blessing. Our Shabbat light on this Shabbat will be for each and every one of the 240 hostages. And so I'm going to sing a melody familiar in our congregation. Those of you who want to follow along in the prayer book after you get through lighting light, you can open up the prayer book and leave it on your seat to the bottom of page 349. The words of this prayer, Eli, Eli, were written by a true Jewish heroine, Chana Senesh. Some of you are familiar with Chana Senesh's story. She risked her life and ultimately lost her life by parachuting back into Central Europe in an attempt to rescue Jews during the Shoah. She was only 23 years old. She lost her life. She left us with some extraordinary words of poetry in addition to the amazing legacy of her life. And among those words, these, Eli, Eli, shelo yigamer le'olam. Oh God, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart. But the prayer of our hearts will bring this song into this space. And as I'm singing, I invite you to come forward, each and every one of you, whether you brought candles or not, to bring Shabbat light to this room. As you can see, literally the entire perimeter. There's room over there for you to sneak in behind the piano, over in the little alcove in the corner. Here, up on the bima, there are candles as well on the little table and extending all the way to the door. I want to invite everybody to be a part of creating light for those held in captivity. And this song, this prayer of our hearts will hold the space as we do so. After the lights are burning, we will make the blessing for kindling these 240 lights as the light of Shabbat. שלא ייגמר לעולם החול והים רשרוש של המים ברק השמיים תפילת האדם החול והים רשרוש של המים ברק השמיים תפילת האדם. Oh God, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart. Oh God, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart. Eli, Eli, שלא ייגמר לעולם החול והים, לרוש של המים, רק השמיים, תפילת האדם החול והים בשרוש של המים, לרק השמיים תפילת האדם. I invite you to rise in all the ways you're able. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת. On page 28. Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed La 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 top of page 31. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars, creator of the tide of time and light. You guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. Top of page 33. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. I'm going to share the words of Micha Mocha in a few moments on page 40. It is a prayer of liberation. So especially on this particular Shabbat in which our hearts are drawn to the liberation of those who are held in captivity, usually we speak of Micha Mocha in metaphorical terms. We think of all the ways in which we are ourselves striving to be freed from that which enslaves us. Yes, that too is a part of our mission in singing Micha Mocha tonight, because we are ourselves in spirit imprisoned of the heart in this time of such extraordinary uncertainty and fear. But especially for those who are experiencing quite literally the life of captivity, Micha Mocha is of course dedicated for them on this night. I do want to share some words. Micha Mocha is also a prayer of uplift, believing in the possibility of redemption and liberation. There was a teaching written shortly after the rise of the Czech Republic. After finally the Czech Republic had its first democratic election and elected Václav Havel as the first president of the Czech Republic, he spoke these words about the distinction between hope and optimism. Right now, when I think the rest, we're naturally, I think, all of us struggling to reach for optimism. There's not a whole lot that leaves us feeling all that optimistic. In such a time, is it possible to summon hope? Václav Havel believed so. He wrote that hope is definitely not the same thing as optimism. It's not the conviction that something will turn out well, but the certainty that something makes sense regardless of how it turns out. The deepest and most important form of hope, the only one that can keep us above water and urge us to good works, and the only true source of the breathtaking dimension of the human spirit and its efforts, is something we get, as it were, from elsewhere. It is this hope, above all, which gives us the strength to live. Let us lean into that source of hope on this Shabbat evening as we pray for liberation, with the words of Mi Chamocha found on page 40. You'll turn to the blue supplemental page, top of the page. Let us pray for safety in this dark night. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom, L'shalom V'ha'amidenu Malkeinu Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. 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 page 46. As you're able, please rise. Adonai, sifatai tiftach, ufi agid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, El Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו משני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. The Amidah continues through page 62. It's an opportunity to dig into these prayers and allow them to light up your spirit, or simply to spend some time lingering inside your own soul. As you spend this time in quiet prayer, you can feel free to remain standing or to be seated whenever you're ready. stumble, I fall. We're not that separate at all. In your danger, I feel so far apart and yet so near. When I'm searching for what's right, you're there to point me toward the light, and you show me the way by what you do and what you say. Kol Yisrael Arevim Ze Baze. Kol Yisrael Arevim. We are all connected. I look in your eyes and I see you're my responsibility, and let our hope never cease. We live to see the day of peace. Kol Yisrael Arevim Ze Baze. Kol Yisrael Arevim. We are all connected. One spirit, one heart, will never be apart. Kol Yisrael Arevim Ze Baze. Kol Yisrael Arevim. We are all connected. Kol Yisrael Arevim Ze Baze. Kol Yisrael Arevim. We are all connected. The suffering we are all witnessing and experiencing, it all begins in this week's Torah portion. Abraham and Sarah, the first generation of the Jewish story, the names we chanted moments ago in prayer, were struggling to have a child. Sarah was in agony, fearing that she would be the reason God's promise to Abraham to father a great nation wouldn't be realized, and so she offered her handmaiden, an Egyptian slave named Hagar, to her husband Abraham as a concubine. It is no surprise that practically from the moment Hagar conceived a child, tensions arose between the two women. Soon life for Hagar alongside Sarah became unbearable. When miraculously Sarah became pregnant as an old woman, giving birth to a son of her own, Isaac, whose name we also prayed just minutes ago. The unbearable became truly unlivable. Sarah begged Abraham to send Hagar and her son away. Abraham resisted this fate for his first son. And God, we are told, interceded. promising Abraham that he should let Hagar and her son go, for they too would be the progenitors of a great nation, just as Isaac would be. Two discrete peoples emerging from one family and one land. And so Hagar and her son, Ishmael, were sent away. And he did become the progenitor of his own people, as did Isaac. And those two peoples are still warring over their place on that same piece of land. To be trapped as we are as Jews in that same fight, foretold with precision in the Torah, is to live in agony unlike any most of us have ever known. This is, without a doubt, the most agonizing moment of my career as a rabbi. A rabbinate that has included serving a New York congregation when 9/11 happened, guiding our temple through the fire that destroyed our hillside and our outdoor chapel and nearly engulfed our entire campus, and supporting our community through a worldwide pandemic that destroyed so many lives and families and all of our mental health. Those moments brought exhaustion and fear and loneliness. This one adds a measure of despair, an inner battle with the onset of futility that many of us have never experienced before. That inner battle arises from our paralysis before the question of morality. We are, each of us, reaching in desperation for what is moral in this moment. And we are coming up wanting, because the clarity for which we hunger is a mere illusion. Some of you may remember my personal mentor in matters of morality and Jewish justice, because he taught so many of our Israel travel groups over the years, and because I brought him here to LBT for a full weekend as our scholar in residence in early 2005. He was a rabbi by the name of David Foreman, whose memory is a blessing that only continues to grow in my life. David was the founder of an Israeli organization that is named Rabbis for Human Rights. You are familiar with these folks because they are the unbelievably brave souls that you see standing defiantly in front of Israeli bulldozers to prevent them from destroying Palestinian homes in the occupied West Bank. Rabbis for Human Rights, indeed. They routinely put their bodies on the line in a way that even the most courageous activists among us have never dared to attempt, all to animate the very best of our Jewish values. David was born in America and made Aliyah as a young man, filled with the visionary, humane ideals that led so many to the Israeli kibbutzim and into the work of building a just world for all. Of course, his early years as an Israeli would necessarily also include military service. And during his weekend as our scholar in residence, he told a story from his time in the IDF. He recalled serving as the commander of a tank battalion in the First Lebanon War, 1982. He had received his orders to lead his men into a battle in southern Lebanon. When they arrived, everything was exactly as the military intelligence had indicated. There were the terrorists, and there were the human shields deliberately placed right in front of them. And David was left to decide, do I order my men to fire? If I have them fire, we will absolutely kill innocent people. If I have them hold their fire, it is almost certain that one or more of us will be killed. There's no time to decide. What do I do? David chose not to reveal the decision that he made. Instead, he placed the dilemma before us in this very sanctuary. What would you do? He asked. The first person to raise their hand said something to the effect of, I would have worked very hard to ensure that neither I nor anybody else would ever be in such a situation. The evasion met with exactly that open snickering. The next few people offered that they would hold their fire, since they could not conscience killing innocent people, even in service of a worthy military goal. For them, that was a clear moral line that could not be crossed. After that strand of the conversation gained a little momentum, our temple's past president, Mark Levy, of very blessed memory, raised his hand. Mark, I knew, had served as a tank commander in the Battle of the Bulge in World War II. David called on Mark, and he said they should all be court-martialed. Anyone who ordered the men in the tanks to hold their fire should be court-martialed and imprisoned. The time to decide not to follow the order to lead that battalion on this mission was before the mission, not during it. If you want to be a conscientious objector, that is a fair moral stance to take, and you should be prepared to accept the consequences that come with taking it. But to accept the mission and then refuse to fulfill it is to ensure that other soldiers who placed their lives in your hands will die. Will the morality of your refusal to order fire hold up when you are explaining to their spouses, to their parents, to their children, why their father is dead? Said Mark. Now, by this point, I was barely breathing, wondering if my young rabbinate at Leo Beck Temple was on life support. And that is when Rabbi David Foreman, the founding rabbi for human rights, knew that he had achieved his goal with this exchange. He said, I didn't tell you this story to reveal the right answer. That is, to reveal what I did in that situation, although I'm perfectly willing to tell any of you who would like to know. I told the story to demonstrate something about morality that most people do not want to accept. You see, most of us want morality to be about choosing between right and wrong. But I've learned that moral choices are never between right and wrong, because right and wrong is easy. You do what's right. Moral choices are between right and right, and between wrong and wrong. It is wrong to open fire and kill those innocent Lebanese civilians. And it is wrong to hold fire and rob an Israeli family of a loved one who courageously put his life on the line for his family and his people. It is right to kill terrorists who declare their genocidal intent, along with their preference to die, instead of negotiating a peaceful solution. And it is right to preserve the lives of innocent people trapped by a regime that weaponizes their deaths. Morality, taught Rabbi Foreman, is about choosing how to navigate the real world, not the simple world we prefer to imagine. It's about living in the world where we won't even fully know whether the choice we made was moral. The world where we will struggle forever with the decision we made, principled though it might have been, because the matter so obviously defies moral clarity. Rabbi Foreman's visit to Leo Beck Temple changed my life. I never thought about morality the same way ever again. And in some ways, I suppose that he was preparing me and all of you for this moment, even though I'm quite certain this is a moment that he never imagined could actually happen. What do we do with the refrain, never again, now that it has happened again? recognizing what morality actually is, in contrast to the moralizing that has devoured us all on social media, the tribalist certainty of those who are poisoning this world for Jews and Muslims right now by declaring that one party to this conflict is pristinely right while the other is conveniently solely to blame. I am forced to look upon the choices before us and see right versus right, wrong versus wrong. This, I know, means that I am likely to disappoint and probably even anger most of you tonight. Because the answers I see at this time, so filled with questions, they are not satisfying. They do not relieve the soul's thirst for absolution. They leave me wondering if I'm even right for saying them. Not only if you will question their veracity now or someday, but if even I will. We have spoken far too many times in this sanctuary about the indefensibility of silence. That is a theme you can't miss if you've breathed the air in here for any period of time. So I cannot choose silence, but I will not choose a side and damn the consequences. Anyone who is telling you, level the place, no matter what the cost is in innocent Palestinian life, may believe sincerely that that is how peace will finally be achieved in the Middle East. And anyone who is telling you that Zionism is racism, that Jews are settler colonialists who have no entitlement to live in self-sovereignty on land that once belonged to Jews, but now must be returned solely to the Palestinian people, may believe sincerely that that is how peace will finally be achieved. Both speak passionately of peace and liberation and dignity, and both are interested not in peace, but in victory, in right vanquishing wrong. To them I say, look, if you will, at the bloody result of treating this conflict as a matter of right versus wrong. Any party, Jewish or Palestinian, who does not acknowledge that both Jews and Palestinians have a historic claim upon this land is in fact anti-peace, is only masquerading as a peace partner. Anyone who defines ending the occupation as returning to a world in which we Jews live on earth at the mercy of other powers that have sought to destroy us for almost 2 millennia is only masquerading as a peace partner and will succeed only in intensifying the bloodshed, not reducing it. The same goes for those Jews who dispute the Palestinian claim upon this land. They cause war, not peace. What Hamas has done and promises to continue to do is not any part of the cause of liberating Palestinians, any more than those Jews who dream of annexing the West Bank and ending the vision of a Palestinian state alongside Israel are advancing the cause of Jews living in safety and security. Both sides are right and wrong, which leaves us in a terrible bind Rabbi Foreman faced in that tank, no? Do we fire or hold our fire? As you might imagine, a number of my closest interfaith friends and partners have been in dialogue with me in recent days about this. They are desperate to put an end to war, to end hundreds of Palestinian children dying every single day. Who among us isn't? So it is no surprise that they are calling for a ceasefire, as are a small number of those in the Jewish community as well. Guided by Rabbi Foreman's lesson that morality is never as easy as we would wish it to be, I want to suggest to my interfaith friends that there are a few moral questions that those demanding a ceasefire must answer. First, do you believe that there is any realistic hope that either Hamas or the IDF, much less both, will actually do what you are calling upon them to do? I understand how it might feel satisfying to the conscience to call for no more war. But if there is no chance whatsoever that either warring party would even consider doing what you are demanding, what is the moral import of a call for something that we know is not going to happen, beyond helping the person making the call to feel relief from their agony over what they are and will continue to be seeing? Second, most of my interfaith friends will acknowledge that the call for a ceasefire in Gaza will be manipulated, weaponized as fuel for anti-Semitism, even as they would obviously wish for that not to happen. And I think they're right. Unless they are willing to hold Hamas at least as accountable for the dying Gazan children as Israel, anyone viewing their actions will certainly see them as an impugning uniquely of the Jews. And that type of rhetoric has already led to a 400% increase in anti-Jewish hate acts in America over this same time of year a year ago. 4 times. I don't have to tell you about the security measures adopted at Leo Beck Temple since October 7th, both because local law enforcement recommends them for our safety and because no Jew would set foot in our synagogue without them. To my interfaith friends, I ask, does this raise questions for you about the morality of a call for a ceasefire that has no chance of actually bringing a ceasefire, but absolutely will result in the targeting of your Jewish friends? Third, if you are a proponent of an immediate ceasefire, and you'd like me to dream with you that a ceasefire is somehow possible, let's play out that possibility. Israel ceases its military campaign, and what happens then? I'd assume you'd be willing to agree that Hamas very publicly declares victory and retains its stranglehold over the helpless, suffering people of Gaza. Are you imagining that with Hamas still in power right next door, the Israeli government will loosen the conditions of the occupation? Or would you be willing to acknowledge that conditions for Gazans will naturally be much, much worse going forward than they were on October 6th and before? And if you can acknowledge that, are you planning to withhold criticism from Israel when Gazans are suffering because of those conditions? Because if you aren't, why would Israel even consider gratifying your desire for a ceasefire, only to continue being solely blamed for the suffering of Gazans, while the danger to Jewish lives from Hamas will have been left intact? Fourth, to my interfaith partners demanding a ceasefire on moral grounds, if none of this so far has caused you to reconsider the moral consequences of asking Israelis simply to return to life with a proudly and publicly declared genocidal regime as its next door neighbor, perhaps this will help you to understand why Israelis will not consider a ceasefire for even a millisecond On October 24th, Ghazi Hamad of the Hamas Political Bureau was interviewed on Lebanese television. The video clip and transcript are readily available. Here's what he said. Israel is a country that has no place on our land. We must remove that country because it constitutes a security, military, and political catastrophe to the Arab and Islamic nation and must be finished. We are not ashamed to say this with full force. We must teach Israel a lesson, and we will do this again and again. This is just the first time, and there will be a second and a third, a fourth, because we have the determination, the resolve, and the capabilities to fight. Will we have to pay a price? Yes, and we are ready to pay it. We are called a nation of martyrs, and we are proud to sacrifice martyrs. The occupation must come to an end. To which the news anchor asks, occupation where? In the Gaza Strip? No, I'm talking about all the Palestinian lands, replies Hamad. Does that mean the annihilation of Israel? Asks the news anchor. Yes, of course, replies Hamad. The existence of Israel is illogical. The existence of Israel is what causes all that pain, blood, and tears. Therefore, nobody should blame us for the things we do on October 7th, October 10th, October 1,000,000th. Everything we do is justified. To my interfaith friends, I ask you to watch this interview and then take a soulful pause and ask yourself, is it morally upright for me to ask my Jewish friends, who have as rightful a historical claim to live in self-sovereignty upon this land as the Palestinians do, to let this man and his associates continue to massacre them 1,000,000 times if necessary, because the annihilation of Israel is their only satisfactory outcome? Do you see a negotiated solution between the Jews and the Palestinians to share the land, a solution in which an Israel in some form continues to exist, happening with this man and his kind as the representatives of the Palestinians? Truly. Because if you don't, the call for a ceasefire is a call for genocide against the Jews. The call for a ceasefire isn't a choice to save children. It's a choice of whose children should die. And the choice that you're making is the Jewish ones. It is unsettling to hear these words coming out of my mouth at all, much less in front of a microphone. But we are talking about an organization that has said in front of every microphone it could find, with little apparent negative consequence, for 35 straight years, that its goal is to murder all Jews, including you and me. Does that prospect cause you to struggle with the morality of a call for a ceasefire in Gaza? I am not remembering any interfaith campaign calling for an end to Hamas to rival that of the clarion call for an end to Benjamin Netanyahu's leadership, which the Jews in Israel and in the United States, including me and so many of you, have robustly joined. Will our interfaith friends join us in making the demand for an end to Hamas for the sake of the Palestinians and the Jews as vociferously as we will? Many of you know about my work with an organization by the name of Truah, the Rabbinic Call for Human Rights. I'm a recent chair of its board, and I still serve as one of its directors. 2,300 North American rabbis and cantors are formally connected to Truah because it offers a principled path that supports the Jewish quest not to be exterminated while rejecting the Israel right or wrong advocates who prefer to lie about Israel's fair portion of the responsibility for the deadly status quo between these two peoples. Last week, 700 rabbis and cantors signed on to Truah's response to the crisis in Israel and Gaza. The Truah response disappointed the level the place crowd by calling on Israel to fight its just war justly in accordance with international law, and by calling for a humanitarian corridor for critical supplies to enter Gaza, and for the international community to take responsibility for policing that corridor to ensure that the aid goes to the suffering civilians, not to Hamas. It also called for prioritizing the release of the 240 petrified souls who we have honored in light tonight. For I don't think any one of us can stomach imagining what is going on in their lives at this very second as we labor over these dreadful matters amid safety and beauty. Truah's statement was, however, equally disappointing to the ceasefire crowd. There's a reason we rabbis chose to let them down, a reason that is hard for anyone who isn't Jewish to access. The reason is that it is not impossible, but it is rare to find a rigid Jewish pacifist. And that is because if World War II, god-awful as it was, hadn't been fought and won by the Allies, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation, because I never would have been born. My parents would have died as children when the Nazis, without the resistance of military might, completed their solving of the Jewish problem by taking over all the world. They had already taken over all of Europe before the Allies began to push them back, not through negotiation, but through force. Force is ugly, grotesque, wrong. I hate it as much as you do. But I am a Jew, and I know I'd be dead without it. Talk about a choice between wrong and wrong, between right and right. This does not make me a warmonger. It makes me someone who will not pretend that he doesn't value his own kids' lives as much as he values all children, wherever they may live. I'm not sure if you would refuse to physically defend yourself and your family if someone came to your door looking to kill you or your loved one, God forbid. But this is the kind of thing Jews have no choice to think about, but to think about. Does that sound hyperbolic to you? Maybe we should ask the Jewish peace activists who live nearest the Gaza border and somehow managed to survive the baby incinerating, senior citizen decapitating rampage they just witnessed. Answers that are unsatisfying, that do not relieve the soul's thirst for absolution. Answers that leave me wondering if I'm even right for saying them. But if silence isn't an option, the stained canvas of morality is all I can attempt in humility to offer. Join me, please, with your heavy heart in painting that canvas of wrong and wrong, right and right, with the colors that stand what we hope is the best possible chance one day, may it not be long off, of enabling peace to breathe free. So many times throughout my 26 years as a rabbi when I've led the singing of Shabbat, I have felt the futility of praying for healing for folks who I know are not going to get well. Haven't you ever had that feeling? The Shabbat's keep coming, and yet you know this person is sick and is not going to recover. And there's been a part of me that has said, well, there's the prayer not only about refuat haguf, the recovery of the body, but also refuat nefesh, the recovery of the broken spirit. And perhaps that's the part that we're still praying for. I want to posit that offering Misha Berach at such a time as this could run the risk of feeling similarly futile. I don't believe that it is. First, refuat haguf, that will be a challenge. Refuat nefesh, recovery of our broken spirits, of our collective broken spirit, of what it is we will need to summon in order to survive and thrive and be among those who are osei shalom, the makers of peace. We need to pray for healing, for them, for us, and for those special souls in your life who are struggling especially, and you would like to include them in this space that we are holding here tonight. So in a moment we're going to join together in praying in the middle of page 253. I want to invite you, should you wish, to speak aloud the name of someone in your personal circle who you would like to include in our collective prayer for healing. And when my eyes meet yours, please speak those names aloud to our congregation. If you'd like to share a name, please rise however you're able. join together in prayer, middle of page 253. מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing. And let us say, Amen. Mishebeira imotenu mekor habracha bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, renewal of body, renewal of spirit, and let us say, Aleinu can be found at the bottom of page 282. I invite you to rise as you are able.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 287. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד ושמו אחד ושמו
Some words to help us prepare for the recitation of Kaddish, words found at the bottom of page 292. We have lived in numberless towns and villages, and in too many of them we have endured cruel suffering. Some we have forgotten, others are sealed in our memory, a wound that does not heal. 100 generations of victims and martyrs, Still their blood cries out from the earth. And so many at Dachau, at Buchenwald, at Babi Yar. And what can we say? What can we do? How bear the unbearable or accept what life has brought to our people? All who are born must die, but how shall we compare the slow passage of our time with the callous slaughter of the innocent, cut off before their time? They lived with faith. Not all, but many. Surely many died with faith in God, in life, in the goodness that even flames cannot destroy. May we find a way to the strength of that faith, that trust, that sure sense that life and soul endure beyond this body's death. They have left their lives to us. Let a million prayers rise whenever Jews worship. Let a million candles glow against the darkness of these unfinished lives. As you prepare to recite the Kaddish prayer this evening, we remember especially Yossi Tzabari, in-law of Karen and Tom Wagoner and grandfather of Kaya Tzabari, whom death has taken from us in recent days. We link his name with Samuel Bergman, Sarah Berliner, Dorothy Burson, Reuben Bird, Mildred Breakstone, Rosalind Broad, Mame Friedman, Evelyn Goldberg, Harvey Halper, Louis Hockman, Herb Howard, Nettie Kleinberg, Alfred Koller, Ellis Lansbaum, Harriet Levins, Sylvia Euster Levin, Isabel Littman, Stanley Marlin, Eva N. Newman, Lottie Pitt, Ruth Pressler, Lawrence J. Raymer, Joseph Rosenfeld, Shauna Swears, Martin Weinberg, Philip Weinstein, Roy Zuckerman. Are there other names we should include? If so, please speak them aloud. We think as well of all those whom we name in our hearts. And we think of those who are perishing in an effort to serve our people's ancient home. And we call to mind and to heart all of the innocent victims of violence. More than 1,400 in Israel. Thousands now upon thousands of Palestinians. Children in the thousands in Gaza. Our hearts cry out, Zichronam Livracha. May their memories be forever a blessing. As together we give thanks for the blessing of life, the words of Mourner's Kaddish, found on page 294. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, נעמה דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחיי חון וביומי חון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בהגנה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו. ואלה ננקו ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל. אמרו amen. The giver of peace. Send peace to all who mourn, comfort to all who are bereaved, guidance and wisdom and hope to all of us who are shattered. And let us together say, Amen. Ose shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'himru amen. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Before we adjourn for the evening, since I hope most all of you, it's late, but I hope you're going to be nourishing your bodies, because this is a Shabbat that took a lot out of us. We should make motzi, so that there's some sanctity brought to the experience of restoring yourself. That's what we do when we eat, right? We're seeking to fill up the tank again. After it's full and, yeah. And so with that in mind, I slaved over it all day long. I'd like to give some special thanks to Allison Lee for the outstanding challah that we're enjoying here this evening. And so with that said, let us give thanks for the gift of sustenance. Let us also recommit ourselves to sharing our good fortune with all who are in need. That includes those who are trapped in a terrible prison of Gaza, that the aid should get in and that their bodies will be nourished. Please God. Together we join in blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat shalom.